Some weeks ago, I got this email from the members of TEDxLjubljana team, and they said, I hope you like this fall gathering of TED that you joined as a participant, so we wanted to ask you to come back and speak at the next event. And I said, great. I mean, I love TED. I've been in love with it for many years, so anything that has to do with TED, I'm in. So what's the topic? And they said, women. And then I said, well, there might be a problem. I have nothing to say about women. And they said, great, can you do that in 18 minutes? And while that is actually pretty funny, I think we have to give them a credit to recognize that sometimes choosing not to say something speaks much more louder than saying a whole bunch of things. And it also got me thinking, well, I had to, for all these weeks, to decide what am I going to say, and it got me really thinking, if I have nothing to say about women, it is pretty interesting because, in fact, I am a woman. I mean, physiologically, I think it's a pretty obvious fact. I am physiologically a woman. Psychologically, I went through all the normal things women go through. So I am a daughter, I'm a sister, I have an older sister, so that's another whole bunch of psychology there when you have an older sister. I have a daughter who's almost 7. That's another whole bunch of psychology there. So I'm definitely, there's nothing, I'm a wife, my husband is here today. So everything that you would think about a womanly thing, I have it. Nothing out of what would constitute kind of a womanly thing, I haven't missed it. So how come is that I have this reaction, I have nothing to say? Angela Monet said this really remarkable thing, and I've been using it for many, many years. Those who danced were thought to be quite insane by those who could not hear the music. I think it's true for my situation. Many might assume that it's pretty insane that I literally have nothing to say. So what is my music? Why? How come this happened, that there's nothing happening in my head when I hear women? When somebody says how it is to be a woman, it's almost as equal as to ask how it is to be Nadya. I mean, I can say you how it is to be Nadya, but women is a kind of abstract thing that just doesn't sound. So how come do I have nothing to say? Well, first thing that comes to mind is this. A mere fact, I was indeed born in the USSR. I was born in the USSR in a very special time. I am the embodiment of the last Soviet generation. Us born in the 70s have this very special treat. We were the last ones. Even my younger brother, who was born in the 80s, doesn't remember anything anymore. He has no recollection of what it is or how it feels to live in that society. But I also had a special treat because I was born when I was born, at the time where all those atrocities or things that you would think about USSR simply didn't exist anymore. We didn't have executions, and we didn't have crazy power that would shame on you or put you in prisons. We didn't even have much of any kind of political pressure on us. We didn't even have crazy stories about the West, and we were not scared about the West. We had this perfect little window of opportunity when all the bad was gone and nothing else yet started. So it was a complete blank space. And just like being born in the USSR in the 70s, I don't have any physical experience of what authority or power is, so I don't have this fear of authority. Same way this happens with this business about women, because nothing in my young years distinguish being a woman from being a man in any way. I cannot remember in any recollection any special treatment to a woman or a man. So those two distinctions were mere facts, the same way you would think about when are you born. So you being born in January versus February is an interesting fact, but no more than that. So being a woman or being a man wouldn't really matter. But then on top of being extremely blessed to be born in USSR, when I was born, I was also born in a very specific part of USSR called Kazakhstan, the Soviet Republic of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan, of course, all of you know, is this little tiny country somewhere there in midst Afghanistan and Pakistan and Tajikistan, this little nice warm neighborhood we all love. But very few people, aside from Borat, know that Kazakhstan is actually the 9th biggest country in the world. So it's this huge thing, right in the middle of the, well, for me it's right in the middle, for some others it's in a corner, but right in the middle of the globe. So 9th biggest country in the world, and pretty much empty. We have almost no people in the country. So it's empty, beautiful, very, very large. And that is why during the Soviet period, Kazakhstan was chosen to be a place where they would forcefully migrate every ethnic population that for some reason was kind of unfavorable for the rest of the country. So the entire population of Koreans, the entire population of Germans, German ethnicity living in USSR, the entire country of Chechnya, every population you can imagine that was for some reason unfavorable was forcefully migrated into Kazakhstan. So here we are, this crazy huge country with this unbelievable population of every culture, all looking very strange. If you put us in order, when my husband met my family, they said that looks like a whole bunch of random people put in one place, because we ethnically look all different ways. And that also created the fact that Kazakhstan is extremely tolerant. It's extremely open. So you don't have this feel of what it means to have a border between one and another, including what it means to have a border between a woman and a man. Well, if I don't have really say anything about women coming from my past, what about my present? This whole business of being in the field of leadership and studying leaders, and what about leaders, women leaders globally? There should be some reaction I would have. I started thinking, who would I think about the global leader I admire? And none of the names, just ask yourself that question. Who are the global women leaders that you would put on a pedestal and say, this is it, this is, you know. Most of the time, names that come to mind are definitely not women. I mean, think about Nelson Mandela or Gandhi or, I don't know, whatever is your personal. Most of those people, those universal, Dalai Lama, we heard great, great names. But even of the speakers we heard, absolute majority of them would not be placed in that huge, huge, you know, top 5 leaders of the world, the most admired. They wouldn't. So the leaders that come to mind most of the time are men. Is that because women don't lead? Is that because women don't contribute as much? About 3 winters ago, almost exactly 3 winters ago, I got another letter. So the first letter was about coming to TED. This was a very different letter. I got a letter from a person who said, I read something from your writing on sustainability. I write on sustainability occasionally. So I read something on your writing on sustainability, and I thought it was interesting, so I wonder if we can talk. I said, great, where are you? Well, I used to live in Amsterdam, I'm just moving to Slovenia. And I said, interesting. I used to live in Cleveland, I'm just moving to Slovenia. Maybe we should meet. And this person said, sure, what's happening? I said, well, there's this conference happening in Gospodarska Zbornica. Do you have time afterwards? I said, sure. We sat down after this conference. It was a strange conference, some Japanese, Slovene kind of gathering, talking about climate change, very strange. So outside we sat in Gospodarska Zbornica, we were very comfortable, we sat. And the very first question, it's not like, hi, you know, how's your life, very proud. No, the very first question was, do you have any hope? Do you have any hope? Because if you just for a second think of what's going on in the world, it's better pretty much kind of lay down and say, okay, we're doomed, everything is going down, it's not gonna get better. So, do you? And that's how this little project came into my life, a little tiny project called Challenge Future, where the idea was, if we have any hope, even a little bit, is there some way we can increase and grow the amount of hope that there is in life? So what can we do? There are many different things that are happening, of course, in the world. We can list them all. We heard great speakers today, everything from peace to climate change to poverty to justice. I mean, the list is long. If you think about how to address most of the global challenges of the world, the question is, of course, who? Who should we focus on if we have very little amount of time to focus? And the answer for this particular conversation was youth. The older guys are pretty much done and they're very busy, making their life very busy. But there's this little tiny population who is still in this small window of opportunity where they can actually dream big and they are not very busy earning money and all kind of funny things. So can we connect to youth? So we said, let's play, let's try. 9 months later, we kind of suddenly, very accidentally discovered ourselves in the middle of a community of 15,000 people from 184 countries, all buzzing around virtually and getting ready to come together in a small group of people in Bled and being all excited. And it was pretty remarkable because what Challenge Future is, it's a kind of Davos of youth, you can imagine. It's a youth think tank, which in essence tries to turn the concept of Davos upside down. Can we make it radically inclusive? Can we make it absolutely open and free? So it's not that untouchable top, but vice versa. It's very touchable and very real bottom of our life. So it is on one side a very vibrant innovation competition, but much more so it's a conversation of one country speaking to another and one life speaking to another. We had pretty remarkable moments where somebody would say, how would you spend 50 euros for the most impact? And the question of what is an impact in Belgium versus Sri Lanka versus Kazakhstan become very different, including what is 50 euros in those three different countries. So 9 months later, with all this buzz, with all the different things happening, we find ourselves in Bled, doing all kind of interesting things, talking to each other, having a lot of fun, and in those moments, some big and small miracles would happen. I remember this moment where on two sides of this big room, so this is the room you can see here, on two sides of this big room, there will be on that side a person from India and another side a person of Pakistan, and the person from Pakistan got up and he said, we keep talking about these borders. Somebody keeps saying there's these borders, but here I am. I'm from Pakistan, and here's my brother from India. Where are the borders? So somehow something really big and life-changing happened there. And in between, of course, it was not all in face-to-face. A lot of the conversation happened virtually. So we asked, for example, what is connecting for you? And this is what we got. Connecting is many, many answers. So can we also touch upon each other's life through those conversations? Now, I asked this question about women leaders, and why is that no big name comes to mind very often, most of the time, when we ask ourselves who are our visions of leaders? Is it because there's none of them there? Well, something interesting happened at this event, at this big culmination of 9 months journey with many, many people in different parts of the world, because at the very end, it was a long 9 months and then a final culmination summit, 5 days physically in Slovenia. At the very, very end, we were saying a lot of thanks to all the people who came and so on. And then we were saying thanks to people who organized the events. And it's a self-organizing organization. We have a lot of youth running it and so on. But behind the things, there's this 5 people who kind of make things happen on a more systematic level. And we were all called up in different manners. And we were all talking. And then there was this advisory board member who just looked at us. And we were standing there. And he said, huh, I've been in touch with you for a year now, and I just recognized, just at the end of this very long journey, I just recognized that you're all women. And we looked at each other and said, huh, that's true. We are. So, I don't know if women lead differently, but I do know that sometimes there is not that much need for the words. And with that, I wish you a very good break and a very good night.